without further ado, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Bhavik, for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Firstly, I really want to say thank you for having me, Bhavik. It's a real pleasure. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. So I guess professionally, I've done my background. I started a degree in economics.
Yep.
Worked in the workplace to get experience, as most people do once they've done bumming around at university. I then kind of fell into HR. So I really started getting into that. Decided to do a master's in HR.
Yep.
And at that point, I realised I don't really like HR.
Did you finish that?
I finished my master's in HR.
Yeah.
I was doing quite a lot of project work for NHS in that. So I actually really like the project work aspect of it.
Got it.
So after that, I did project management for 10 years. And project management, I think, is an undervalued skill. It's a really transferable skill. I did that for 10 years. So I've worked for big companies like Accenture, where you're working with high performance teams and you really get to see the true essence of collaboration, everyone in the same direction. But I've also worked with smaller companies and that's allowed me to be a much more influential part of the puzzle in that company. And that seeing that element really helped me understand what's required in business. So that's been my professional life. At the same time, I've always been quite entrepreneurial. From a kid, I always remember buying donuts from the shop, £1 for 6, and then selling them each for 50p. So I've always had that kind of element in me. So in terms of my business path, I had a web design consultancy where I was building websites for people.
No way.
This was about 7 years ago now. I had a hotel consultancy business that helped hotels maximize their revenue through online reviews.
No way. And when was this?
So that was about 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
This was before Airbnb.
Yeah.
So it's really about...
but when social media was kicking off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was about making sure the room rate was the correct optimum to make sure you get the maximum revenue. So I did that. I guess moving on to the last few years, had a letting agency in Leeds. We tried that for a little bit. And to date, we've got a property sourcing business. And that's running really well now. That specializes in helping people get on the buy-to-let ladder. So for a lot of people in property, they want to get started in buy-to-let, but just don't know how. And we really handhold them through that process and either get them started or help them expand their portfolios.
Amazing.
So that's one part. And then I've got a mortgage business that helps finance it, really.
Fantastic. What are your thoughts on the whole doing one thing, nailing it, and then moving on to the next thing?
I think that's absolutely integral. So many people I see, if I talk about the property space, there's so many people I see who jump from one strategy to another. And if you look at the curve, the learning curve, they get to the point where they're really starting to master something, they jump and they jump to another strategy. So that, there's all different strategies in property and they keep jumping. And what they do is they think they're, the way they kind of rationalize it and tell other people is, I'm just trying something new, so I've diversified it. The reality is they found something more exciting and they've jumped on that and they haven't really mastered anything.
100%. That's a lot of experience business-wise. How's that affected you personally? Like what experience have you taken from there in your personal life?
Yeah, so in terms of that, I guess I'll take that one thing. It's me, I'm a certain personality type. There's a profiling tool called Wealth Dynamics by a gentleman called Roger Hamilton. And what that says is everyone's got a flow state. And a flow state is what you're good at. And it really tells you to become great at what you're good at rather than strengthen your weaknesses. So for example, Einstein said if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will always think it'll grow its whole life thinking it's stupid. And I was, to an extent, I resonate with that because academically I wasn't that well endowed. I will come to your point. I'm not completely going around the houses. So being a creator, I'm working on focusing on one thing because creators, we're very good at coming up with new ideas. So taking one thing has really helped me balance myself. So in our property business, a lot of people said, why don't you do other areas? Why don't you do other products? And I believe in business, you're a culmination of what you say no to. And Steve Jobs believes this as well. When he started at Apple, he cut his product line down. I think it was from 200 down to like 10. And at Lifestyle Property People, we focused on one product, one area, one client type, one particular part in Leeds, and that helped us get to 95 units. So I'm a firm believer of focus one thing. Now, when you get to being known as an expert in the field, then by all means go ahead, but don't jump ship. You're so close sometimes to getting the diamonds, and people change tact.
100%. And then on the personal side as well, something that I hear a lot and I believe is health is wealth, and I know you believe that strongly. Tell me your sort of take on that, because I think as entrepreneurs we spend so much time, we sometimes get bogged down doing the actual work and running the business when we forget about the health, or even we forget about the family sometimes.
Yeah. So I think, if it's okay, that is the holistic view and the philosophy behind Business Warrior.
Yeah.
The Business Warrior philosophy is about having mind, body, and business in balance. And there's so many people, if we touch on body for the first part, is they sacrifice their health for wealth, and they either work, crazy hours in the pursuit of wealth. And what you see them do is they sacrifice their health. They eat, they drink, and you see their health start to deteriorate. And in later life, that you start to see incapacity start to happen. So you don't want to lose your health. Same with the mind. So many people see so many stresses and they don't look after themselves. They don't have this balance and they have breakdowns. And I'm actually quite guilty of that, because I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I'm like, you have to work
100%.
hard. And I've had a point to something called burnout quite recently. I'm quite open with my friends about that point that I was at. And then obviously in business, if you're trying to run a business without basic business fundamentals, 8 out of 10 businesses fail within the first 18 months. It's about keeping that in harmony. So if we just expand on the health side, is if you look at kind of the last 100 years, life expectancy has increased. So we're living till later. But on the other side, we see more diseases, more illnesses happening. So you're living into later life, but your general condition is not that good. So what I believe in firmly, and this is kind of one of my passions, is stay healthy now. And again, it's Bruce Lee's philosophy, which is kind of where worry is. I do not pray for an easy life. I pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. And my take is slightly different. I say, instead of saying I don't pray for an easy life, is I will work hard to endure a difficult life. And my philosophy on physical body is stay healthy to be able to throw anything that comes your way. And you talk about family life. My daughter, she's a little nutter, right? She runs around. She's got my level of energy and I love her to bits, but she runs around. Now, I want to keep up with her.
100%.
I'm 37. So for me, I want to stay ready. I don't want to be in a situation where I can't go after her. So in the physical thing, stay ready. The final part of that I'll kind of add to it is I grew up watching my dad. And my dad was like 2 generations above. And he was very, very unhealthy. Now, especially in Asian culture, he had diabetes. And ultimately, he passed away from after having a stroke and a heart attack. So when you look at, you've got push and pull. I've got pushed there as well. And I'm like, I don't want to end up like that. That's why I strive to stay healthy. And if I'm going to be optimum state, I'll be able to be more efficient in
and
business.
have that balance.
Exactly.
Cool. So let's jump straight in. Business Warrior in 6 steps. What's the first step?
Brilliant. So the first step I'll talk about in Business Warrior is a warrior. Traditionally, either in the Colosseum or on the battlefield, they'll spend a lot of time training. The reason why they spend a lot of time training is if they don't train, if they go out into the battlefield, they're gonna get, they're gonna die. So in your business, 2 parts of that. You've got one part which is being upskilled. Now you're in the filming industry, and you're keeping up to date with current affairs. If you're not up to date with current affairs, other people are just going to overtake you.
100%.
In lifestyle property people, we stay upskilled. We've spent almost £100,000 now on training.
Wow.
We don't say that to impress people, but we say it to impress upon people the importance of training. So we go to this property mentorship every one Friday of the month called Property Entrepreneur. The value we get from that is absolutely incredible. And ultimately, we are training so we can give the best quality service to our clients.
100%.
So training is really important. Don't get too busy to make sure you're trained. And the other part is working on your business as working in your business. And I know that everyone says that so freely, but it's also really important to understand that everyone gets so busy nowadays. We understand people get busy, but when you're busy just working in your business, you're not pushing your business forward. And if you're not pushing your business forward, other people are going to take you over. So it's really important to find time to strategize, to look at your P&L, seeing where you can increase profits, to put processes in to make your life easier. And just one point to touch on in this whole philosophy is, and I learned it quite recently, is a lot of people start business And ultimately, if I asked you, why did you start a business? What would you say, Bhavik?
To make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
And maybe not directly with video, but to help kids in Africa or Asia or wherever around the world get an education and provide a better future for their family.
Fantastic. So you want to make a difference.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the business is there to serve you and help you fulfill your goal.
100%.
Now, the trap most business owners, and me included, is this business becomes this master that you serve instead of the business serving you.
100%.
You know, so I used to be like, look how noble I am. I'm working on my business. And, you know, it gave me that kind of self-worth. When if you take a step back, that's not why we're here. You create a business so it can help you serve your goals, so you can find a better balance, so you can spend more time with your family. And that's what we're trying to help entrepreneurs do as well.
Amazing. And that whole thing about the balance, I think that's so important. And it's the only few things that we can control, right? The health, and coming back to that point, but linking it with this, it's the only few things that we can control with our body.
Exactly. And I'm a firm believer of everything is from within.
Yep.
And that's the mind state part. So in this triangle of mind, body, business, mind is the top, because mind, your physical being is a manifestation of your mind.
Yes.
You know, it's not look, oh, that guy's got a great body. No, that guy's got great discipline to be able to achieve what he's done. And business, again, is a reflection of your mindset.
100%. And at the end of the day, you're a human being, not a human doing, right? So the more you look after this stuff, the more successful you will be. And I get, on the other hand, when you're starting a business, you have to do everything. You've got to be the guy who delivers the service, you've got to be the accountant, you've got to be the marketer, but there's some sort of balance, and the earlier on that you pick that up, it's better. Exactly.
So, you know, one challenge I've said recently in my professional agent talk is try and spend 45 minutes a day working on your business.
Yeah.
You know, how can you push the business forward? How can you improve marketing? Where can you cut costs? How can you increase profit? What processes can you put in place? Just spend 45 minutes a day before you start work. Yeah. Because when you start work, you're going to be too busy. And see how it makes a difference to your business.
Amazing. Is that something that you implement?
Yeah, so I wake up quite early, and I have my 45 minutes to an hour every day without fail, because again, that's my flow state because of my personality type.
And how do you decide what to work on?
So so the way I plan my week is the Friday or the Sunday before the week. So before Monday comes, I've planned my week.
Yeah.
And I actually learned this from my mentor. His name's Dan Hill in Property Entrepreneur. And what we do is we pick 10 things, just 10 things, because again, this is part of that focus part, which we'll come on to next, is if the more things you have in terms of to-do list, it can become a hamster wheel. So it's really important to pick really high value tasks. So I pick 10 things, and then what I do is I put it in my calendar. I don't put it in the bottom of the calendar. I put it as an all-day task.
So it stays there.
So it stays there. So when I go to Monday, I've got 3 tasks. I bang them out first, including kind of whatever I'm going to be strategizing on.
100%.
And then firstly, you know, it's a positive mindset. Now I've accomplished my tasks. Now anything else is a bonus. So it's a game, really, in terms of kind of staying focused to that level.
Amazing. And that takes you on to point 2, which is focus, right?
Yeah, focus, exactly.
And we touched on this a little bit at the start in terms of the focusing on one thing and nailing it, then moving on. But it also applies to a very small thing, such as a task, a daily task.
Exactly. So again, this comes down to, you know, again, something that Bruce Lee said. So Bruce Lee said, I don't fear the man who knows 10,000 different kicks. I fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times.
Yeah.
And what he's saying at that is you have a certain level of mastery when you do one thing. So, you know, if I'm writing a document, for example, and, you know, nowadays it's nuts with the kind of distractions you can have. You can have phone calls,
Facebook,
WhatsApp. You know, I've been on Instagram recently. I wasn't on it before. You know, it's so addictive. There's so many things going on in your life, and we as a society, I can see we're losing attention span. It's really scary.
Yeah. On that note, there was something that I read recently. I think I shared it on you guys, but where if you're doing some sort of task, whether it's writing an email, writing a document, and you look at something, even if it's for 5 seconds, you go to Facebook, it takes you 20 minutes or something like that to get back into the zone with that other task.
Exactly right, Bhavik.
And that's insane.
Yeah, it's nuts, because what happens is you focus. It takes time for you to get that mental rhythm going. Yeah. And as soon as you look away, you've increased the time it takes to get back into that. It's a challenge,
yeah, of course.
So the fallacy that we live in is try to do more. Like 100%. If you move away from that fallacy and just try to accomplish one thing to the best of your abilities, ironically, you're actually achieving a lot more.
Yeah.
So some tips that I do is most of my time, my phone's on airplane mode. If I've got some high value tasks I need to do, I don't want to be distracted. I tell my wife, look, I'm going to be busy, or I tell my colleagues this is what's going to happen, and therefore I'm not going to be bothered. I close applications down that I'm not using on my computer. I smash that thing out, then I move on to the next thing.
Got it.
It's not always possible, and look, I'm not here to say I'm perfect at these things, but it does make a big difference in trying to take those incremental steps forward.
If we talk about focus from a different sort of point of view in terms of the product and service, you guys I think have nailed this at Lifestyle, from the area that you service and the type of product and the type of people you want to work with now. What are your thoughts on that, and how important is that for a business? So
a few different points on that. So I'm reading a book at the moment by Seth Godin. It's called Purple Cow, and what he talks about is, in an industry you can either be, so if you go down in the countryside, you might see a cow, right? But then once you go down a few miles, they're all homogenous. They're all cows, right? And the same in your industry is, what you've done has probably been done before. Unless you are absolutely remarkable in terms of a product, you're going to be overlooked, and you're going to be, you're going to be overseen in industry. So unless you're a purple cow, as Seth Godin says, you're not going to make traction in industry. And what we do, when we started Lifestyle Property People, we wanted to have a niche. It's very important to be niche. Don't be all things to all people, because then you're nothing to no one. So we had a niche. We had a micro niche. So I think I mentioned it before. We don't do properties all over the UK. We do one location. We don't just do leads, which is what we do. We do certain areas of leads. We have certain target markets. It allows us to become very good. A good example of this, in fact, is a guy called Alexander Siri, who's written a book called Police Officers to Entrepreneurs. And again, I learned this in my mentorship, which is a bit of a plug to why mentorship is so important. And he's got a real good micro niche. So he helps police officers become entrepreneurs.
No way.
So that's very micro niche, right? He wrote a book on that, and people say that's too niche. But then again, his audience is 126,000 police officers. Now, if any of them want to leave the force, which if you say statistically, a small percentage of them are, who are they going to speak?
100%.
They're going to see him. So he's positioned himself as an expert. So it's about being a big fish in a little pond, rather than being a small fish in the sea.
100%. And people want to work with experts. People want to work with people who know their industry. So the more you brand yourself and tell your story in that sort of area, then you're going to win.
I think the problem that people face is they're too scared to go outside of the mainstream.
No doubt it is a big move to make, even like in our case with video production. If we were to tomorrow close up and say we're only going to be video production for opticians or for the property sector, it's a big move to make, but it can be very lucrative and rewarding, but it's just a risky move. It will take time, no doubt. It'll take time.
But I think, again, Seth Godin said sticking to the norm, that's the risk.
That's quite dangerous, I think, because the market is so flooded.
Exactly.
With everything now. Everything.
He said it. I was listening to it on the way in. He said most of what consumers want has already been created. So unless you're out there, and again, Business Warrior is a good example. A business warrior is, we try to help entrepreneurs find that balance. And if it's a normal kind of consultancy company, it's just bog standard, right? But because we're talking about our passions, we're talking about experience, and it's got that uniqueness to it.
100%.
It's going to penetrate.
I think it heavily
deeper.
comes down to the story. But there's some element of good marketing to share that as well. But if you've got a good product, good case studies, social proof, then you will get some people through the door.
100%, and you have a good film company behind you, like Sincere, right?
Little bit of a plug. What are your thoughts on multitasking?
Multitasking. So again, being a creator, my personality type leans towards that. But again, I think that's a fallacy. We're geared towards, if you look at where we are now, you can get an Uber and that gets you somewhere instantly. You got PayPal that has made transactions instant. Everything's moving faster to instant gratification. And the problem with that is we try to do everything at the same time. And we think we can do that. But what I've seen is people make more errors. When you're multitasking, the chance of errors happening are increased. Have you ever messaged anyone incorrectly? In WhatsApp? Or have you spelt something incorrect? Multitasking is moving us away from being present. And again, Business Warrior is about being present. If you're upset, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. Be present. Try and stick to now. If you're trying to multitask, you're trying to do too much. So one other thing I've got here, point 3, is combinations.
Yeah.
So a warrior, when they're going to kind of hit someone, they're not generally going to go for a one-hit knockout. It can happen, but it's statistically unlikely. So they use combinations to kind of wear down their enemy. In business, we talk about, the analogy that I'll use is, what is your sales process and your user experience?
Yeah.
And I come from an IT background. So user experience is really, really important for me. And at Lifestyle Property People, we try to make every interaction magical.
Yeah.
You know, we want every time the client moves away from us or comes away from an interaction with us, they feel a magic moment.
Yeah.
And again, that is what's going to stick. And again, I learned that to an extent. You know, I knew that, but Suraj had a great influence on me as well.
Yeah.
You know, I got, when I signed up for WP Maintain for hosting, and I got the pack,
Yeah.
and I got the written letter from him. I was like, wow, that's amazing.
I got an email the other day for my birthday as well.
Yeah, exactly. All these things are now, we need to move to a time where we're wowing our customers, because if we're simply meeting their expectations, that's just not going to be, that's not worth talking about.
Yeah. Something that we spoke about actually very early on when we met was video through that journey as well. It's a great way to do it. So once they've passed stage A, send them a video saying, hey, congratulations, you've done the first step. Here's what to expect over the next 4 weeks or 2 months or the next 3 days, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Video touch points are so, any type of touch points, whether you're sending them a box of chocolates or buying them a gift, you know,
Yeah,
it makes a big difference.
it makes a massive difference, Bhavik. And I think the viewers of this podcast, they should really start thinking about that. Take a step out of your shoes, step into your customers' shoes, and think how they perceive you. And if you're not giving an incredible user experience, think again, see how you can do it. And it's not massive. Like you said, you know, a birthday card, showing that you care, just doing those little things, saying thank you, it'll make a big difference.
100%. Ultimately, it's about being remembered. And I think it comes down to the follow-up. So the follow-up, even before you've closed a sale or even after you've closed a sale. So after we've made videos, 3, 6, 12 months, they get a call saying, how's the video going for you? And then something, you know, we're looking at adding some extra touch points within that, of sending them some things and some handwritten cards just to be remembered.
Yeah.
People should remember, and they'll come back for more business.
I mean, video, you know, I'd love to talk about video more. Video is just a topic that, you know, if you just look at where we are in the marketplace, engagement is massive on video.
100%.
And the more I see the way people consume information, it's almost, and I know how I am, is if you haven't got a video on your website, I'm like, okay, I'm going to move away, because that video should really encapsulate
Summarize
everything they do. So if it summarizes everything, then I'll watch it. If it's like 2 pages, I'm not going to read it. And I don't think most people are. For example, the video that Sincere did for Lifestyle, which was for one of our property education events, that was absolutely phenomenal, because what it did for us as a business, again, in terms of user experience, it encapsulated what the actual event was, and it showed the feedback from the client. And in the perception of our clients, it just leveled us up. It really showed us what we were.
Yeah. Social proof is 24/7 sales machine for you.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. So user experience is what I would say for my
awesome
clients.
Cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. What's the next point?
Next point is accuracy.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, I'll use the analogy from a warrior or a sniper. You know, they don't just kind of fire into the air and hope for the best.
Yeah.
You know, they sit down, they look where the wind is, they aim, and they shoot with purpose and accuracy.
Yeah.
In business, how well have you profiled your clients? So how old are they? Where do they hang out?
Yeah.
What kind of purchases do they make? What do they like? What do they not like? These are kind of basics in terms of understanding your avatar. Again, in some marketing books, is focus on a target market rather than focus on all people. Because you know, an example would be is if you just did a Facebook ad spend and you didn't even define a group, you'd be spending bucks, right?
Yeah.
Whereas
it's a waste of money as well.
Exactly. If you home in on a specific target, you know, your money will go a lot more, and you're marketing to the people who want to see you, which is kind of what GDPR is about. You know, a lot of people look at GDPR and like, oh my God, this beast coming in. But what they're saying is they're reducing the noise from people who just market unnecessarily, and they're moving to a platform where you're only hearing about things that you want to hear about.
Yeah.
And so what I'm basically saying around this is, what is your client avatar? Understand your client.
Yeah.
In Lifestyle Property People, we know our clients are between 28 to 45, generally live in Northwest London, are busy professionals in the city or business owners. They've got to a point where they've done well and
Yeah.
they want to get started in property and they value experience.
Yeah.
They don't have time. They hang out at places like David Lloyd, for example. They like the nicer things in life. Those are our clients. But when you understand that, we're not going to go to Primark.
Yeah, of course.
So for our clients, is to the viewers, is understand your target market.
Yeah, and for those of you watching or listening, if you go to Google and type in, avatar worksheet, you'll find tons of different worksheets. Fill them in, and the more you the more you dig deeper, I think you'll get more clarity on who your audience is, and the results will come in a lot quicker.
100%.
A lot quicker. Especially if you're doing Facebook ads, I don't think you should be spending money if you haven't defined an audience, because you are literally throwing it down the drain and spend it on some videos or whatever else.
Yeah.
But once you've defined your audience, you'll get better results.
It's a process to go through marketing, and it's easy for us, I guess, maybe to say at this point. But if you're new to business, it might be you might not have heard of it, but it's so important.
100%.
Happy to move on.
Yeah.
Step number 5 is counterpunching. So again, a warrior anticipates each move. So have you heard of a thing called flanking in military? So if I'm coming to you head on, someone goes round the back. That's all coming to the side. That's flanking. And what you're doing in that situation, you're turning a situation into your advantage.
Yeah.
In business, I don't see people enough spending time on the business. So I'll give you an example: a SWOT analysis. That's just it's a fairly rudimentary business tool: strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats. So you need to know what your strengths are. And I always say the greatest relationship you have is the one with yourself. Understand yourself, but understand your business. And if you understand your strengths, you can talk about your strengths. Like at Lifestyle, we talk about 95 units because it's one of our strengths.
Yeah.
In terms of weaknesses, you need to understand your weaknesses, because if you don't cover those weaknesses up, they're going to become threats down the line. Opportunities, you need to capitalize, because that's what's going to make you grow. And threats, by all means, you need to spend time understanding what threats are coming into the market and how you can stop them. And the analogy I used was Nokia. Nokia was sitting on top of its throne thinking, we rule the market. I had a 3210. But, they took the eye off the ball, and then who came over? Samsung and Apple. And they took over. So they weren't staying on top of their market. You, in any kind of given stage, like analogy I give is Jason Bourne. When he sits in, when he comes into a but or restaurant, he's looking at his exits. Look at what your exits are. Take time planning your SWOT and counter and predict early. But if you start to plan for something after it's happened, it's too late.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's always changing as well, right? So it's important to do that. How often would you suggest a business to do
we generally do it quarterly.
Yeah.
You can do it when I was working for companies, we did it annually. I think quarterly is not that bad.
Yeah.
Especially in property with the amount of changes that are going on.
Yeah.
Interest rate rises, new tax regulations. You need to be aware it's coming and how it's going to affect you.
Yeah. And for those of you listening, if you haven't done one at all, I would say just do one, get used to it, and then increase, even if you do start annually and then you bring it down to 6 months and then quarterly. Just the main thing is just start.
And like you said, you can find templates on board. And again, if you're looking for formal health, that's something Business Warrior can help with.
100%. Awesome. Have you come across a situation where that has happened in terms of the going around your back kind of thing?
I'll tell you what we've done quite well. So in the mortgage company, it's called On Point Mortgages.
Yep.
There was a situation we knew interest rates were going to rise. This is before the 0.25 increase that the Bank of England did. We knew that was coming. So what would normally people do? People who buy property would be like, okay, now the cost of money is higher. Yeah. Therefore, now the interest rate's risen. Maybe I shouldn't do this. But what we did is we turned that threat into an opportunity, and we built a campaign around saying, interest rates have risen, come to see us and check and make sure your product is the most suitable product for you.
Fantastic.
So people at that point, okay, oh no, products have risen.
Yeah.
Let me talk to these guys to make sure I'm not overpaying. So we turn that into an opportunity.
I think if you do that with everything, it's always possible. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's always possible to turn a negative, or it doesn't even have to be a negative. It could just be a little bit of a negative,
exactly,
but it could be switched around into something that could bring you more work or bring a client back in, or take that scarcity away from someone.
100%. It's about, exactly.
Cool. And the final point
is it's getting back up. So warriors, like bad villains in movies, they always come back. And what I'll say about that is a warrior's why, like a samurai protects someone.
Yeah.
and their why is so honorable. They'll always get back up. When you're in business, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
We know it's hard, but me and you've had conversations
100%.
around business, about the tough times, but we knew it was going to be tough.
Yeah.
If you're not ready for tough, don't be in
start a
business.
business.
Business is a roller coaster. Me and Shiv, who's my business partner in lifestyle, we've had extreme highs and extreme lows in the same day, and if you haven't experienced that before, that's massive kind of stress and positives happening in one day. And, you're like, what should I be? Should I be partying or should I be crying? Yeah. So it's about trying to take things in context. Rob Moore, who's a speaker in property, he talks about it. He goes, don't take highs, don't get too happy, and don't take lows, don't get too upset.
Stay in the middle.
Stay in the middle. And with that balance, again, coming back to balance, you can take things on the chin and move on. But then you have your dark days when you're like, shit, I want to give up. Why am I waking up? But then I look at people like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. And what I'd say to people is, you're not alone. These dark days that you've encountered, these problems, the days you want to quit, everyone's had them. Everyone who's successful has had them. Steve Jobs got ousted from his business. Yeah. That almost broke him. He started another company called Next, but ultimately came back. Elon Musk is having massive problems. He talks openly about the problems. The Model 3 that he's building at the moment in the Gigafactory is having massive manufacturing problems, but he's digging down and working at it.
Yeah, solutions.
That's what defines you. So getting up.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I think the other thing is having a good 3-4 people around you who you can trust, who have been in that situation with experience. Like, not really a mentor, but just having a good group of people you can go and talk to always helps in that kind of case. Even if you're having a day where you're like, why am I doing this? Having that person to talk to is always so inspirational, I think. Yeah. It brings you back up.
Exactly. So, I'll give you a very good example of that. That hotel, let's say one of my businesses that I had, I was actually pushed out of that business unwillingly.
No way.
And I was in a really, really dark place, and it was quite quite destructive to myself. And I had all this bad energy, and I was like, oh, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I get revenge? Kind of thing. And I talked to a very good friend of mine who runs an IT company, and he said to me, if you want revenge, dig 2 graves, one for yourself, one for others. And he told me this story about Steve Jobs, and he goes to me, Akash, look, bud, it's all right. You know what? Every entrepreneur, business person's gone through this. If you haven't gone through this, it's coming. It's coming. And how do you know you're going to be successful? Yeah. So when I heard that exactly like you said, that changed my energy. And what I did is I took my money and I invested in property and I moved it forward. So you have your dark days, but it's how you contextualize that. And for me, the point I'm getting across in this is failure. Yeah. People hate me for saying this, but I love failure. Yeah, 100%. Because I'm an experiential learner. You could tell me 10 things, I might learn 4, but if I learn and I try to have a go at them, I might fail at 8. But the learning I take is worth more than the money I make.
Yeah, it's something that I like to use or say is failure, or isn't a mistake unless it happens a couple of times. Like if it happens once, it's a lesson. Take that, learn from it, and then hopefully it won't happen again. If it does, then we're human beings. We're not perfect people.
As long as you take the courage to
accept that it's a lesson.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
Some people, one of the things that I'm quite passionate about is acknowledging and taking responsibility. So I have this phrase, which is ultimate responsibility, which is anything that happens in your life, you have control over.
100%.
And some people say, oh, what about the weather? What about this? Okay, that's all fine. But I'm talking about anything that's happened, you take responsibility, you control the way you react to something, the way you approach something, and you create your life. I think there's 2 types of people. One who let life happen to them, or one who take life by the horns and absolutely smash it. And those are the people who take those lessons and say, do you know what, I've learned and I'll move forward. And you have to have courage for that, because a lot of people saying, as soon as you fail, people point fingers at you and say you failed. And if you've got your ego can be bruised, but it's fine. But like I said, if you take those lessons and learn, you'll go forward. If you take millionaires or billionaires, Sir Alan Sugar, if you took his money away, he's still got the business acumen to start tomorrow, build 100%. The networks and make his money back again. Yeah. So the last point really for our listeners is failure is natural. Yeah. Take the learnings and move on, get back up and keep going.
Amazing. And for those who are listening and want to learn more, connect with you, have a chat with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so we're going to launch the Business Warrior. So it'll be www.businesswarrior.co.uk
Amazing.
webpage. And in the meantime, you can contact me on Facebook or akash@businesswarrior.co.uk.
Cool. And you're on Instagram now as well. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was a bold move. My wife helped me get on that.
Good. You're going to be addicted. Make sure you keep it on airplane mode.
Yeah, I will.
During those tasks. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bhavik, thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure.